Before the Grammys, before Water became a worldwide sensation, and before millions of fans knew her name, Tyla was simply a young girl growing up in Johannesburg with a big dream and an even bigger family. She wasn't born into a famous musical dynasty. She didn't have a superstar parent opening doors for her. Instead, Tyla grew up in a multicultural South African household where her parents wanted her to have a secure future. Her siblings became her childhood companions, and music slowly transformed from a passion into an obsession. And then came the moment that changed everything. Her parents looked at their talented daughter and essentially said, "Music is risky. Have something stable to fall back on." Tyla understood their fears. But deep down, she knew something they couldn't yet see. She wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing her calling. And eventually, she convinced them to give her a chance. That chance became Water. That chance became a Grammy. And that chance turned a girl from South Africa into one of the world's most exciting young music stars. But who are the people behind Tyla? Who are her parents? How many siblings does she have? And how did growing up in such a close family influence the woman she eventually became? Let's take a closer look. The family Tyla came from. Tyla was born Tyla Laura Seethal on January 30, 2002, in Edenvale, Gauteng, South Africa, and grew up in Johannesburg. She comes from a remarkably multicultural background. Her heritage includes Zulu, Indian, Mauritian and Irish roots, a combination that reflects the diversity of South Africa itself. And that cultural mixture became more than just a fact about her family tree. It became part of her identity. Tyla grew up surrounded by different cultural influences, different musical sounds and different traditions. That may help explain why her music feels difficult to put into just one box. Is it pop? Is it R&B? Is it amapiano? The answer is almost all of them. Her music eventually became a meeting point between South African sounds and global pop. But that creative identity started at home. Her father. Tyla's father is Sherwin Seethal. Unlike his daughter, Sherwin was not pursuing a career in entertainment. He worked in the financial world, including accounting and finance-related work. In many ways, that made him the opposite of the stereotypical, show business father. He wasn't raising his daughter with the expectation that she would become a celebrity. Instead, like many parents, he wanted her to have a reliable future. But there was something important about Sherwin's influence. He was musical himself. Tyla has recalled that her father would sometimes sing around the house and even wake his children in the morning by singing. Think about how simple that sounds. A father singing to wake his children. But for a child who would eventually become a singer, those moments become part of the soundtrack of childhood. Music wasn't something Tyla had to discover later. It was already in her home. The father who wanted her to have a safe career. Sherwin and his wife understood that the entertainment industry could be dangerous territory for a young person. There are no guarantees. You can have talent and still fail. You can release great music and still struggle to find an audience. You can become famous for one song and disappear just as quickly. So when Tyla began talking seriously about music, her parents weren't immediately jumping for joy. They wanted her to think practically. And Tyla actually understood their concerns. She wasn't a rebellious teenager simply trying to ignore her parents. She knew they were trying to protect her. But there was one problem. Tyla couldn't stop thinking about music. Her mother. Tyla's mother is Sharleen Seethal. Sharleen has pursued creative business interests, including jewelry and candle making. That creative side of the family is interesting because Tyla's artistic personality seems to have developed naturally within her environment. But Sharleen was also the parent Tyla had to convince when the young singer decided she wanted to make music her career. And this is where the family story becomes emotional. Tyla has spoken about having to plead with her mother for an opportunity to pursue music. She knew her parents wanted her to have a stable career. But she also knew that if she didn't try, she might spend the rest of her life wondering, what if? And that was a risk Tyla wasn't willing to take. The 1 year that changed everything. Tyla eventually asked her parents to give her a chance to prove that music could work. The idea was simple. Give me 1 year. Just 1 year. If she couldn't make something happen, she could reconsider. For her parents, this probably sounded like a reasonable compromise. For Tyla, it was an opportunity she could not waste. And she didn't. She began working harder. She recorded songs. She released music. She built her online audience. She developed her sound. She began attracting attention from people in the music business. And eventually, the daughter who had needed to convince her parents that music was worth pursuing began showing them evidence that she was right. That one-year gamble became one of the biggest turning points in her life. Her parents were asking for a backup plan. Tyla was building Plan A. Why her parents wanted her to study. One reason Tyla's parents were hesitant about music was education. They didn't want their daughter to throw away her future for an uncertain dream. After graduating from high school, Tyla considered studying mining engineering. Yes, the same Tyla who would eventually become a Grammy-winning singer was once considering a career connected to the mining industry. It's an almost unbelievable contrast. On one side, mining engineering. On the other, music. Tyla ultimately chose music, but her education and upbringing gave her something valuable: discipline. She had been taught to work hard, take responsibility and think about the consequences of her decisions. So when she finally chose music, she wasn't treating it like a game. She was treating it like a profession. Her siblings, a house full of energy. Tyla grew up with 4 siblings, making her part of a family of 5 children. And if you have ever grown up in a large family, you already know what that means. There is never complete silence. There are always conversations happening. Someone is laughing. Someone is arguing. Someone is hungry. Someone is playing music. And somebody is probably stealing something from the refrigerator. For Tyla, growing up with siblings gave her a normal childhood before fame arrived. They knew her before the designer clothes. Before the Grammys. Before the international interviews. Before millions of people followed her on social media. They knew the ordinary Tyla. And that kind of connection can be priceless. Her sister Sydney, one of Tyla's publicly known siblings, is her younger sister, Sydney Seethal. Sydney has developed her own presence in the fashion and social media world. She has worked as a model and has appeared alongside Tyla in fashion projects. The sisters have also been photographed together publicly, showing their close relationship. But Sydney isn't simply known as Tyla's sister. She has her own personality and career ambitions. That distinction is important. Tyla may be the most famous member of the family, but her siblings have their own lives. And Tyla has made it clear through her family interactions that she values those relationships. Dancing with her siblings. One of the most interesting details about Tyla's childhood is that dancing wasn't always a professional activity. Sometimes it was simply something she did with her siblings. Tyla has recalled dancing with her siblings while doing chores. Imagine that. Years before millions of people would copy her choreography online, Tyla was dancing around the house with her family. There were no viral challenges. No professional choreographers. No cameras. Just siblings having fun. But those childhood moments helped develop the confidence and natural movement that later became such an important part of Tyla's artistry. When she performs today, her dancing doesn't feel like something completely separate from the music. It feels like part of the music. And perhaps that instinct was developed long before she ever stood on a professional stage. Her extended family also had music and dance. Tyla's musical influence goes beyond her immediate household. Her grandmother reportedly had a history of singing competitions. And one of her aunts was a professional dancer who taught Tyla belly dancing. So Tyla grew up with both music and movement around her. That combination would later become one of her biggest strengths. She wasn't simply a vocalist. She was a performer. She could sing. She could dance. She could command attention visually. And she understood rhythm. In other words, the Tyla we see today was being shaped long before the world discovered her. Her family's cultural influence. Tyla's multicultural family background also influenced the way she understands identity. Her heritage includes Zulu, Indian, Mauritian and Irish ancestry. Growing up in South Africa meant she was exposed to a country with an extraordinary mixture of cultures and musical traditions. That environment gave her a broad artistic palette. Instead of trying to imitate American or European pop completely, Tyla could take global influences and combine them with South African sounds. And that eventually became one of her greatest strengths. Her parents gave her roots. Her environment gave her influences. Her siblings gave her companionship. And music gave her a voice. When the family realized Tyla was serious, at some point, her parents had to realize something. Their daughter wasn't going to simply grow out of music. This wasn't a teenage phase. She was serious. She was writing songs. She was recording. She was contacting people in the industry. She was releasing music. And she was getting better. Then came Getting Late in 2019. The song gave her early recognition in South Africa. Tyla was still a teenager. But now there was evidence. She wasn't just saying she wanted to be a singer. She was already becoming one. From family support to international success, Tyla eventually signed with Epic Records in 2021. That was a huge milestone. Her parents' daughter was no longer simply making music in her spare time. She was now a professional recording artist. Then came 2023. And everything exploded. Water became a worldwide hit. The song spread across social media. The choreography went viral. International audiences discovered her. And suddenly, the family was watching Tyla's dream become reality on a scale nobody could have predicted. Then came the 2024 Grammy Awards. Tyla won the inaugural Best African Music Performance Grammy for Water. Her family had witnessed the journey from the beginning. They had seen the uncertainty. They had heard the arguments about career choices. They had watched her work. And now they were watching her make history. The emotional full circle moment. There is something beautiful about Tyla's family story. Her parents once worried that music was too risky. They wanted education. They wanted security. They wanted their daughter protected from disappointment. And those concerns were understandable. But Tyla wanted something else. She wanted to try. And she didn't ask them to believe blindly. She asked them to give her a chance to prove herself. Years later, she had not only proved herself, she had become a Grammy winner. And in 2026, she added a second Grammy for Push to Start. So the conversation that began with, "What if music doesn't work?" eventually became, "Look what our daughter has accomplished." That's a full circle moment. Tyla's family today. As Tyla's fame has grown, her family has remained an important part of her life. But she has also learned to protect certain aspects of her personal world. She doesn't share every family moment with the public. She doesn't need to, because fame can make ordinary relationships complicated. When millions of people know your name, the people who knew you before fame become even more valuable. Your family remembers the person behind the celebrity. They remember the teenager, the daughter, the sister, the girl who was still figuring out what she wanted to become. And that grounding can help protect a young star from becoming consumed by fame. The family behind the star. So, when you look at Tyla today, don't only see the Grammy-winning singer. See the little girl dancing with her siblings. See the teenager writing songs. See the daughter convincing her parents to take her dream seriously. See the father singing around the house. See the mother worrying about her daughter's future. See the family watching their daughter take a huge risk. And then see the moment that risk paid off. Tyla didn't come from a family of superstars. She came from a family that gave her roots. She came from a family that challenged her. She came from a family that wanted her to succeed, even when they weren't initially sure music was the right road. And perhaps that's why her story feels so relatable. Because sometimes the people who love us most aren't the first people to understand our dreams. Sometimes they're simply afraid we'll get hurt. But Tyla showed her parents that she wasn't chasing an impossible fantasy. She was building something real. From Johannesburg to the biggest stages in the world. From family dance sessions to Grammy history, Tyla's rise is not just the story of a superstar. It's the story of a daughter who dared to prove that her dream was worth believing in. And behind that dream stands a family that was there long before the world learned to say her name. Tyla, the daughter, the sister, the South African superstar, and perhaps most importantly, the girl who asked for one chance, and turned it into a global legacy.